Carl Jung once said that the greatest truths about human nature hide in the shadows, buried in what we refuse to admit about ourselves. And if there's one truth men have never wanted to face, it's this. Women test men in ways that seem irrational, manipulative, even cruel. But these tests reveal something deeper about the soul of masculinity itself. You've felt it before. The sudden argument that came out of nowhere. The subtle jab that cut deeper than you expected. The moment she pulled away, not because she stopped caring, but because she wanted to see what you would do. Most men call this manipulation. Jung would call it something far more terrifying. An unconscious game between the anima and the animus, between the masculine and the feminine, where your very worth is being weighed. This is not about women being bad. It is about something ancient, psychological, primal. Jung believed women embody the mirror to a man's hidden self, and in that mirror they will provoke him, challenge him, and sometimes even break him, just to expose whether he is strong enough to face what lives inside. And here's the forbidden truth. If you fail these tests, she will never truly respect you. Not because she is cruel, but because on some deep level she cannot. So today, we're going to expose what Jung uncovered about these tests. Why they exist, why women use them, and why, if you understand them, they can transform you from a man who crumbles under pressure into a man who commands respect without saying a word. Carl Jung was not a casual thinker. He was the man who dared to walk into the hidden chambers of the human soul when most others refused. A Swiss psychiatrist, once Freud's closest ally, he broke away because he saw something Freud did not. That human beings are not only driven by repressed instincts, but by a spiritual hunger, by archetypes, by unconscious forces that shape every word we speak, every relationship we enter, and every test we are forced to face. His ideas disturbed people then, and they still disturb us now. One of Jung's most provocative insights is that men and women are never just two individuals relating to each other. They are archetypes colliding. Inside every man lives the anima, the inner feminine, the emotional, intuitive, often chaotic element of his psyche. Inside every woman lives the animus, the inner masculine, the rational, ordering, and often confrontational force. And when a man and a woman meet, these inner figures meet too. What looks like an argument, a test, a rejection, is really two unconscious worlds wrestling for balance. This is why Jung insisted that women will always test men. Not out of malice, but because, on an unconscious level, she is the embodiment of his anima, forcing him to confront what he denies in himself. If he is weak, insecure, ungrounded, she will expose it. If he projects his unacknowledged fears onto her, she will mirror them back with piercing accuracy. To the uninitiated man, it feels like cruelty. To Jung, it was the psyche demanding growth. Think about it. A woman's so-called tests often happen at strange, almost irrational moments. She provokes an argument right after a peaceful evening. She questions your ambition when you feel most comfortable. She withdraws affection when you expect it most. To the shallow observer, this seems manipulative. But Jung would say, no, this is the unconscious at work, trying to see whether you can remain centered, whether you can hold your ground when the storm comes. Because here is the brutal truth. Women do not test men for answers. They test men for presence. They do not care if you have the perfect words, the clever retort, or the flawless logic. What matters is whether you flinch, whether you collapse, whether you betray your own center. The woman does not want you to fight her. She wants to feel that you cannot be moved from yourself. Jung connected this to one of his most haunting ideas, the shadow. The shadow is everything you refuse to face about yourself. Your fears, your weakness, your envy, your hidden aggression, the parts of yourself you try to bury, but which live on in the unconscious and erupt when you least expect them. Women, Jung argued, have a unique way of drawing the shadow out of a man. Not because they consciously plan it, but because the feminine archetype awakens the very things the masculine tries to suppress. So when she questions your worth, when she pushes your buttons, when she withdraws her warmth, she is, in a sense, summoning your shadow. She is asking, will you collapse into anger? Will you retreat into self-pity? Or will you face what rises within you and stand unmoved, forcing your shadow into the light rather than letting it control you? This is why so many men fail these tests. They think they are being asked to explain themselves, when in truth they are being asked to reveal whether they are men who have faced themselves. They think they are being judged for their external achievements, when in truth they are being judged for their internal solidity. To make this clearer, imagine a man who has never confronted his insecurity about success. He buries it, hides it, laughs it off. Then one day, the woman in his life questions his ambition. She does not even mean it cruelly. She simply asks, "Is this all you want to do with your life?" Suddenly, his shadow erupts. He becomes defensive, lashes out, accuses her of being ungrateful, or withdraws into sulking silence. In that moment, she has confirmed what she unconsciously suspected. This man is not at peace with himself. His own shadow owns him. Jung's brilliance was in showing that these moments are not random. They are archetypal. They happen in every culture, in every era, because they are built into the very architecture of the human psyche. Women, often without realizing it, act as guardians of a man's growth. They do not allow him to stay comfortable, because comfort rots a man's strength. They push, they test, they provoke, not to destroy him, but to reveal him. And here is the paradox. The men who complain the loudest about these tests are often the men who fail them the most. They cry manipulation, unfairness, cruelty. They do not see that what they are being given is an invitation to confront their shadow, to integrate their anima, to become whole. Jung would warn that if a man refuses this invitation, if he continues to see every test as an attack rather than an initiation, he will remain forever half-formed, trapped in bitterness and resentment. So when you strip it down, the core idea is this: women test men not to humiliate them, but to awaken them. They test not because they want to destroy the relationship, but because the relationship cannot survive if the man himself is not strong enough to hold it. And in Jung's terrifying honesty, the verdict is final. If you cannot withstand the test, she cannot truly love you. Because love without respect is no love at all. Most men today are unprepared for Jung's truth. We live in a culture that tells men that women should be easy to understand, that relationships are about constant harmony, that love is a soft place to rest. But reality and Jung's psychology tell a different story. The woman who challenges you is not betraying you. She is revealing you. Look around at modern relationships. You'll see a pattern. Men complain about women being difficult, emotional, always testing. What they do not see is that the testing never ends because growth never ends. A woman does not test you once and then relax forever. She tests you because life itself will test you. The moment you stop showing strength, stop living with purpose, stop standing in presence, she feels it. And she reacts. Not out of choice, but out of instinct. This is where many men collapse. They want love to be unconditional, eternal, untouched by struggle. But a woman's attraction is conditional, whether we admit it or not. It is conditional on your strength, your direction, your ability to hold the center when the world shakes. The man who believes love should come without tests is like a soldier who demands to be honored without ever stepping onto the battlefield. He wants the crown without the fight. In modern dating, this truth is everywhere. A man gets ghosted after showing neediness. Another loses a woman's respect the moment he tries to buy her approval with gifts and empty promises. Another is abandoned not because he lacked money or looks, but because he lacked presence. Jung would say all of this is archetypal. The man failed the test not because women are cruel, but because his unconscious weakness rose to the surface and she could not unsee it. But this goes beyond dating. It spills into society itself. Jung warned that weakness attracts predators, in relationships, in politics, in the marketplace. When you refuse to face your shadow, when you hide from your own depths, the world notices. People sense it. Just as a woman unconsciously tests a man's solidity, society itself tests your capacity to endure. If you are timid, if you collapse under criticism, if you betray yourself to fit in, you are marked as prey. And prey is always devoured. Consider how men today are constantly tested in subtle ways. At work, your boss challenges your competence. In friendships, people push your boundaries. Online, anonymous strangers mock you, insult you, bait you. Most men react exactly as their shadow dictates: anger, defensiveness, retreat. They give away their power because they cannot sit in discomfort. The ones who endure, the ones who absorb chaos without flinching, are the ones who rise. Jung's psychology makes this brutally clear. The man who cannot endure tests is not yet a man. He is still a boy, waiting for someone else to validate him. Women feel this instantly. Society sees it eventually, and life punishes it without mercy. Let's return to relationships, because this is where Jung's ideas cut the deepest. Why do women respond to strength? Not because of superficial dominance or aggression, but because strength signals integration. A man who has faced his shadow, who has acknowledged his fears, who has confronted his own demons, radiates an energy that no test can shake. He does not need to argue endlessly. He does not need to prove himself. His presence is enough. Modern women, whether consciously or not, look for this. They may not phrase it in Jungian terms, but they feel it. A man who collapses under stress makes her feel unsafe. A man who hides from conflict cannot hold her trust. A man who is easily provoked reveals he has not mastered himself. So she tests again and again, not to destroy him, but because on some level she is begging him to show her he is more than his shadow. But here lies the danger of our time. Most men misinterpret this process. They think they must fight women, silence them, dominate them, control them. They confuse presence with aggression, calm with arrogance, authority with cruelty. Jung would call this another shadow trap, projecting unacknowledged weakness onto women and calling it masculinity. Such men may win obedience, but they never win respect. And without respect, love dies. On the other side, some men go soft. They retreat into endless appeasement, believing if they never upset her, they will never lose her. They swallow their truth, bury their instincts, and live in quiet resentment. But the irony is cruel. The more they appease, the more she tests, because she feels his center dissolving. And eventually the tests stop, not because he has passed, but because she no longer sees him as a man worth testing. She has already left him in her heart. This is why Jung's teaching is more urgent now than ever. Because modern society encourages men to either collapse into weakness or overcompensate with aggression. Both are failures of integration. The true path, the path Jung hinted at, is to confront the shadow, integrate the anima, and learn to hold presence no matter what chaos rises around you. That is the man a woman cannot help but respect. That is the man society cannot easily break. Think of the countless men today lost in cycles of rejection, heartbreak, bitterness. They rail against women, calling them cruel or deceptive. They build entire online movements around blaming the feminine. But Jung would look at them with terrifying clarity and say, "You are not being rejected by women. You are being rejected by your own shadow. Women are only the mirror. The failure is not hers, it is yours." In relationships, in careers, in life itself, the test is always the same. Will you stay centered when you are pushed? Or will you betray yourself in a desperate attempt to win approval? Modern men do not fail because women test them. They fail because they expect not to be tested. Jung's psychology does not hand out comfort. It hands out mirrors. And when you dare to look into them, what you see will either make you stronger or destroy you. From his insights, from the raw reality of how women test men, come lessons that are not suggestions but commands. Ignore them, and you will bleed for it. Follow them, and you may just find yourself becoming unshakable. The first lesson is merciless in its simplicity. Never demand that the tests end. They will not. A woman's testing is not cruelty but nature, just as storms are nature. You do not curse the thunder for being loud. You learn to walk in the rain without flinching. The man who cries out, begging for the tests to stop, has already revealed that he is unfit for the very love he seeks. The second lesson, never collapse into appeasement. The weak man believes he can avoid conflict by silencing his truth. He believes endless agreement will earn him endless peace. But every time you betray your own instincts to avoid a fight, you carve away a piece of your soul. Women may nod, they may smile, but deep down they feel the cowardice. And once respect dies, attraction dies with it. The third lesson cuts in the opposite direction. Never confuse strength with aggression. Too many men, sensing their own fragility, mask it with bluster. They shout, they dominate, they demand obedience. But this is not presence. This is not integration. This is the shadow in full control, wearing the mask of authority. Such men inspire fear, but never trust. And trust, more than anything, is the foundation of love. The fourth lesson, master your silence. Not the silence of weakness, but the silence of presence. The man who can hold a storm without shaking, who can listen without leaping into defensiveness, radiates a gravity that no test can unsettle. Jung would call this a man who has faced his unconscious, who no longer needs to prove himself because he has nothing left to hide from himself. The fifth lesson is brutal but necessary. Rejection is not your enemy, self-betrayal is. Too many men think being abandoned by a woman, being criticized at work, being mocked online, is the great tragedy. It is not. The tragedy is when you betray your own center to avoid it. Rejection is pain, yes, but it is also purification. It shows you where you stand. Self-betrayal, on the other hand, leaves you hollow. And nothing is more terrifying to a woman than a hollow man. The sixth lesson, face your shadow, or it will be exposed for you. Every insecurity you bury, every fear you pretend not to feel, every weakness you hide, life has a way of dragging it into the light. Women sense it in the tremor of your voice, in the way your eyes shift, in the way your actions betray your words. You cannot bury what you refuse to face. And once it is exposed without your mastery, it will control you. The seventh lesson, never beg for respect. It is only taken. And you take it not through violence, not through manipulation, but through embodying your truth so fully that no one can mistake it. Respect is the natural consequence of integration. When you are aligned with your purpose, when your words and actions mirror your deepest truth, tests do not break you, they affirm you. The eighth lesson, presence is the ultimate power. Money may impress, looks may attract, status may open doors, but presence holds them open. A man rooted in presence commands attention without shouting, earns respect without demanding, and attracts love without chasing. Presence is not a trick, not a technique. It is the natural byproduct of facing yourself fully. The ninth lesson is perhaps the harshest. Love is not unconditional. At least not the kind you seek as a man. A mother may love her child unconditionally, but a woman cannot love a man who abandons himself. She may pity him, she may care for him, but desire withers. Attraction dies. Jung would say this is archetypal. The anima rejects weakness not because she is cruel, but because life itself rejects it. And finally, the 10th lesson. Tests are not barriers, they are gateways. Every time you are tested, by a woman, by society, by life, you are standing at the threshold of transformation. Fail, and you remain trapped in the same patterns of weakness. Endure, and you evolve. The test was never about her. It was always about you. These lessons are not gentle affirmations. They are survival codes. If you are waiting for the world to hand you peace, it never will. If you are waiting for women to stop testing, they never will. If you are waiting for life to go easy on you, it never will. Jung knew this. He knew that the psyche itself conspires against the man who hides from truth. So you have a choice: collapse in resentment, rage at women, curse the tests, or embrace them, endure them, transcend them. One path leaves you broken, the other leaves you free. Carl Jung's truth is merciless, but it is also liberating. The tests you fear, the conflicts you avoid, the moments where a woman's words cut you to the core, these are not random cruelties. They are mirrors. They are gateways. They are the stage on which your shadow reveals itself. You may spend your life resenting them, calling women manipulative, calling society unfair, calling life itself cruel. But Jung would tell you that you are only cursing the mirror for showing you your own face. The tests will not end because the unconscious does not stop pressing against the surface. Every time you collapse, every time you betray yourself, the shadow grows stronger. Every time you endure, every time you hold presence, the shadow bends to your will. Understand this: women do not fear intelligent men. They fear the man who refuses to integrate his intelligence with strength. They fear the mind that cuts like a blade, but has no hand steady enough to wield it. They fear the man who speaks of truth, but cannot embody it when challenged. And so they test again and again, until what is hollow is shattered and what is solid remains. This is why men fall. Not because women test them, but because they expected not to be tested. They wanted the crown without the crucible, the love without the fire, the peace without the battle. But there is no peace without war, no crown without scars, no respect without trials. Jung's voice whispers across time with chilling clarity. The shadow will not be ignored. The anima will not be denied. The psyche will not allow weakness to masquerade as strength. Life itself will drag you into confrontation with yourself, whether through a woman's words, society's cruelty, or the silent torment of your own mind. And if you refuse to face it, it will consume you. So the choice is yours. You can continue chasing approval, begging for love, collapsing under every test until your life becomes one long retreat. Or you can stand, endure, confront. You can face the shadow. You can let the tests forge you rather than break you. Because in the end, every test was never about her, or them, or the world. Every test was always about you. And the man who finally understands this does not fear the tests anymore. He welcomes them. He endures them. He transcends them. And when he does, he becomes something women cannot help but respect, society cannot easily break, and life itself cannot corrupt. That is Jung's merciless gift. That is the truth you cannot unhear.